So what is migration? Migration means crossing the boundary of a political or administrative unit for a certain minimum period. So basically, migration is defined as crossing a political or administrative unit's border for a specific minimum amount of time, and it is also the act of moving from one place to another in quest of better opportunities for settling down. Types of migration. The internal migration is the movement of people from one area like province, a district, or municipality to another within one country. So the internal migration is the movement of people within national states between their customary locations. This article begins with a summary of the levels of interregional migration and residential mobility in developed nations. International migration is the crossing the frontiers which separates one of the world's approximately 200 states from another. So the international migration is when people cross international borders and remain in the host state for a specific amount of time. Many people migrate for economic opportunities in other nations. Many scholars argue that internal and international are part of the same process. They should be analyzed together. The scholars are the persons who relocates to a new administrative territory is said to be an internal migration. Immigration from abroad, this refers to moving across international borders to a new residence, and anyone who relocates to another nation is considered an internal migration. International migration arises in a world divided up into nation-states, in which remaining in the country of birth is still as norm and moving to another country as a deviation. So in a divided world, international migration has become one of the key forces influencing social change and growth around the globe. Given the volume and diversity of population migration in the 21st century, its importance is likely to grow even further.
International migrants are divided into: first is temporary labor migrants. These are people who migrate for a limited period of time in order to work and send remittances to families in the country of origin. So for example, visiting a country for tourism or attending a conference or for specific purposes such as medical treatment, study, skilled work, working holidays, or other specialist activities. Next is high-skilled and business migrants. These people are with qualifications such as the managers, executives, professionals, technicians, and the like who move within the internal labor markets of transnational corporations and international organizations. Those people that are highly skilled migrants that has been used in some countries is by means of wages paid, with the highly skilled consisting of persons earning above a threshold value. Next is irregular migrants, also known as the undocumented or illegal migrants. They enter the country in search for employment with no necessary documents and permits. For example, migrants escaping conflict and persecution in their countries and seeking protection in another country, but their status may become regular once they apply for asylum. Refugees, those who are unable or unwilling to return to their country because of a well-founded of fear or persecution on account of race, religion, nationality, membership in a particular social group, or political opinion. Asylum seekers, those who move across borders in search of protection. An asylum seeker is an immigrant who has been forcibly displaced and might have fled their home country because of war or other factors harming them or their family. If their case is accepted, they become considered refugees. Forced migration. This includes not only refugees and asylum seekers but also people forced to move by environmental catastrophes or development projects like new factories, roads, or dams. Forced displacement has gained attention in international discussions and policy making since the European migrant crisis. This has since resulted in a greater consideration of the impacts of forced migration on affected regions outside Europe. Various international, regional, and local organizations are developing and implementing approaches to both prevent and mitigate the impact of forced migration in the previous home regions as well as the receiving or destination regions. Family members, also known family reunion or family reunification migrants. Family reunification brings together family members living in different countries. Refugee family reunification is where a family was separated and at least one member of the family was recognized as a refugee or complementary protection holder by the country or she lives in. This refugee can then apply for his or her family to join them in that country. So the last is the return migrants. Those who return to their countries of origin after a period of in another country. This is often labeled as either forced or voluntary, though it can take place at any point on the forced voluntary spectrum.
What are the possible causes of migration?
Income disparity is the degree to which total income is distributed unevenly throughout a population. In many cases of economic inequality, wealth flows disproportionately towards a small number of already financially well-off individuals. Employment is a paid work agreement between an employer and an employee. Learn more about what it means to be employed. Social well-being is an end state in which basic human needs are met and people are able to coexist peacefully in communities with opportunities for advancement. The high-tech groups tend to be dominated by men, but there are only small gender differences when it comes to cell phone use. Migration decisions were also influenced by policy or prejudice towards immigrants in the receiving country. People move in search of work or economic opportunities to join family or to study. Others move to escape conflict, persecution, terrorism, or human rights violations. Still others move in response to the adverse effects of climate change, natural disasters, or other environmental factors.
The volume of contemporary migration.
The United Nations figures show that the global migrant stock grew from 75 million in 1965 to 120 million in 1990. The growth was particularly notable during the 1980s, mostly due to the breakup of the former Soviet Union and subsequent independence of the new republics. International migrants remain a fairly small minority. This is a small minority of the world's population, meaning that staying within one's country of birth remains overwhelmingly the norm. Internal migration, conversely, is much larger. Internal migration is also seen because of population increase and extreme flood. Due to population pressure and scarcity of land and food, many people give up to live as farmers and migrate to urban areas for getting daily income. The significance of migrants as a major factor in societal change lies in the fact that it is concentrated in certain countries and regions. The most important reasons for international migration are differences in income and economic opportunities between countries. Migration of skilled workers leads to a great economic growth of the region. Migration affects certain areas with both the sending and the receiving countries more than others. International migration is an ever-growing phenomenon that has important development implications for both sending and receiving countries. One element of immigration that is seen to benefit the sending country is the payment of remittances, the sending of money back home. The receiving countries do benefit from the infusion of skills. Migration needs to take place in an orderly way to safeguard the human rights of migrants. It is grounded in international human rights law and reaffirms states' commitment to respecting, protecting, and fulfilling all human rights for all migrants.